Thank you, Madam President. I rise with my no vote explanation on this bill. When this legislation started off, and I want to thank the good senator from the 19th District for all the hard work on this. I know he's been working to deal with a regulation infrastructure that's difficult, it's complex, a lot of different considerations to put forward into legislation. And I feel for utilities that have had to deal with burdensome regulations coming out of the federal government, in particular related to the EPA. We are currently have a president up in Washington, D.C. that made it a major policy thrust that he's on record as saying that under my policies, electricity rates will necessarily skyrocket. Well, that's what's happening, and I understand that the utilities are having to make adjustments to their infrastructure to accommodate these regulations, and it's led to a lot of power plants being forced offline that shouldn't be. Well, we've got a new administration coming in, and that new administration wants to grow our country and wants to grow our economy. Those regulations are not doing that. They're actually stifling that. And so there's a couple different options on how to go off and pursue some of the safeguards for reliable access to electricity that we're talking about pursuing today. And I'm just here to say that I believe that this approach, while it is addressing one element that needs to be addressed in our community, is not addressing the key elements that I would like to see. And we are elected representatives. We are elected to serve the best interests of our constituents, the people that elected us into office. And what this legislation does not address are their best interests. We just saw an amendment voted down on one aspect that was a pretty reasonable common sense sign of respect for the people that put us into office, and that was rejected around personal property rights. There's also no provisions in this current legislation that would actually encourage the reduction of rates or improvement of quality or customer service to consumers. And I have an issue with that. If we're going to go off and address how we're regulating our utility infrastructure, I think our constituents, I think our consumers should be at the top of the priority scale, not left off to the bottom. And unfortunately, this legislation is driven by regulated utilities. It's not driven by the constituents that we represent. And it's for that reason that I cannot support this legislation. I would like to go off and encourage things like renewable energy, but I'd like it to be a market-driven support. A lot of our customers would like to see that as well. And there are some elements to that in here, but not enough where the consumer is actually in the driver's seat for what these utilities what the supply for this electricity would look like. So we're not taking care of their personal data protection, we're not taking care of reduced energy rates, and we're not taking care of people's desire for choice around alternative energy and actually seeing it put into action. So for those reasons, I have to submit a no vote on this legislation. Please add my remarks to the
Thank you, Senator Colbeck. Your remarks will be printed as your no vote explanations.